Today, we go into the shadowy underworld of Earth itself, where light fades, time stretches, and survival hangs by a thread. These are not myths or dramatizations. These are two chilling true stories that prove the underground is no place for error. Our first journey leads us into a submerged labyrinth, where a veteran cave diver embarks on what should have been a routine dive. But when he fails to resurface, what follows is a haunting recovery mission that shakes even the most hardened professionals. Then, in the depths of England's infamous Stump Caverns, a solo explorer finds himself trapped, alone, disoriented, and racing against the suffocating grip of the Earth itself. It becomes a brutal battle of will, darkness, and time. One story ends in heartbreaking tragedy, the other in a breathtaking escape. But both echo the same truth. Beneath the surface, there are no second chances. These aren't just stories, they're solemn warnings. Viewer discretion is strongly advised, because what you're about to hear is raw, real, and utterly terrifying. Our first incident takes us beneath the still, pine-covered floor of Wakulla County, Florida, into a place few know exists, and even fewer survive. Hidden behind a veil of Spanish moss and silence lies twin caves, two stagnant, shadowy pools resting quietly in the forest. On the surface, they look harmless, but beneath them, a labyrinth of submerged limestone tunnels, cold, black, and merciless. For some, Twin Caves is a world-class dive site. For others, it's a death sentence. In early 2025, that tale deepened. The diver's name was never publicly released, but within the tight-knit cave diving community, the story spread rapidly. He was skilled, certified, experienced in Florida's notorious systems. He'd been through the twisting passages of Peacock Springs, survived the deep descents of Devil's Eye. But Twin Caves is different. It is part of the Wakulla-Leon Sink System, one of the longest and deepest underwater cave networks in North America. Its tunnels stretch miles beneath the earth. In some areas, they drop beyond 300 feet. It is a place of absolute extremes. Zero visibility, tight restrictions, no room for error. The diver entered the system on a weekday morning. Weather conditions were stable, with no recent rain or current issues reported. This was important. Excess runoff or flow through the system can dramatically alter visibility and increase risk. He entered through the eastern sink, fully equipped, dual side-mounted tanks, rebreather units, a reel of guideline backup lights, redundant safety systems. According to dive logs, he made a clean descent into the open cavern. The entry went according to plan. The first portion of Twin Caves is relatively straightforward, about 200 feet of open cavern before narrowing into the main tunnel system. Past that point, the cave forks into multiple branches. Each turn requires a good navigation decision. The diver was following a guideline laid by previous expeditions, which extended deeper into the system. Somewhere past the 1,000-foot penetration mark, the guideline appeared to end. Whether the line was broken, silted over, or misidentified is still under review. What is known is that the diver either attempted to lay new line or proceeded without a clear connection to the original. This is a dangerous decision in cave diving. Losing the line in a tight passage can mean losing the only path back to the entrance. Inside Twin Caves, some passageways narrow to just a few feet in width. Visibility can drop to zero if a fin or hand stirs up sediment. In such cases, even powerful lights can't cut through the clouded water. Without a guideline, orientation becomes nearly impossible. Investigators believe that the diver became trapped in a side tunnel, not far from the main route. Evidence suggests a silt-out occurred, possibly caused by fin kicks or contact with the cave floor. The diver, unable to see, likely tried to locate the guideline by touch. In some systems, this is recoverable. In Twin Caves, where tunnels snake unpredictably and can dead-end in tight restrictions, it is not guaranteed. At some point during the dive, the diver failed to resurface. He had not filed a formal dive plan with authorities, but friends later reported him missing when he failed to check in. A search was launched within 24 hours, beginning with local dive teams and later joined by specialized cave recovery personnel from across the region. Recovery teams approached the site with caution. Unlike open water recoveries, cave retrieval operations must be planned with millimeter precision. Risking additional lives is never an option. The team reviewed previous maps of the system, consulted known guideline placements, and began their descent. After 2 full days of searching, the diver's body was located roughly 1,200 feet inside the system, wedged in a low, horizontal restriction just off the main tunnel. The body was found face down, gear intact, and entangled in loose guideline. A primary light was still attached to the helmet, but the beam had long since failed. One rebreather loop showed signs of flooding, consistent with water intrusion. This suggests the diver may have exhaled water into the system or lost control of buoyancy during the final moments. The area where he was found was heavily silted. Visibility during recovery was reported to be less than 1 foot. It took another full day for divers to safely extract the body. The restriction had to be cleared of loose debris. The guideline was cut and re-rigged to ensure safe passage. Divers moved slowly, often spending 5 to 10 minutes for every few feet of progress. Once the body was returned to the surface, a full analysis of gear and dive logs began. Preliminary reports noted that the tank still contained gas, indicating that oxygen deprivation may not have been immediate. However, a full autopsy and equipment inspection were ordered to determine the precise cause of death. What stands out in this incident is how quickly conditions can change in a submerged cave. The diver had the training, he had the experience, he had the equipment, but twin caves, like many complex systems, do not allow for error. The diver's name has not been made public out of respect for the family. No charges have been filed, the cave remains open, but the dive community has taken note. Maps of the twin cave system are being updated, new guideline routes are being surveyed, and dive instructors across Florida are using the incident as a reminder of what cave diving truly demands. It is not about thrill-seeking, it is not about pushing limits. It is about discipline, planning, and constant respect for the environment. Twin caves, like Bozeman's Gat or Eagle's Nest, are indifferent to experience levels or previous success. It is a place of rock, water, and silence, one that gives nothing back. And yet, thousands of miles away, another underground system posed a different kind of challenge. It takes us to Stump Caverns, a limestone cave system located in the Yorkshire Dales of northern England. Formed over 300 million years ago, the system stretches deep beneath the moorland, with a web of narrow, twisting passages carved by ancient water flow. Though much of it has been commercialized for tourism, several sections remain wild, accessible only to trained cavers. In 2010, an experienced caver ventured into one of the unlit, undeveloped sections of the cave system, a region closed to the general public and known only to a handful of seasoned explorers. The incident that followed has since become a sobering case study in the inherent dangers of subterranean exploration, particularly within limestone systems characterized by tight restrictions, unstable geology, and disorienting passageways. The individual was part of a small, independent caving team with authorized access to non-commercialized areas of the cave. These were no ordinary walk-through passages. Entry required crawling on stomachs, squeezing through rock fissures barely wide enough for a human torso, and navigating loose, potentially shifting stone. Conditions underground can be treacherous, but on this day, the risk of flooding, one of the greatest dangers in such environments, was ruled out. The surface weather was dry and calm, with no recent rainfall to suggest rising water levels underground. The group began their descent around mid-afternoon, bypassing the public show cave areas, which are well lit and reinforced, and making their way into a lower-level network of passages informally referred to by local cavers as the extension. Unlike the safer, mapped sections of the cave, the extension is a labyrinth of narrow rift passages, compressed ceilings, and treacherous bedding plane squeezes. Horizontal gaps in the rock often no more than a foot high. Navigating this zone demands not just physical endurance, but also an almost intuitive sense of spatial orientation. One wrong turn or misjudged maneuver can result in disorientation, or worse, entrapment. For the first part of the trip, progress was normal. The group was in regular verbal contact, and all members had headlamps, knee pads, helmets, and appropriate clothing for the damp, cold interior, where temperatures stay around 7 degrees Celsius year-round. Trouble began approximately 90 minutes into the exploration. The lead caver entered a particularly tight restriction, a horizontal squeeze that narrowed to less than 30 centimeters in height. It was a section known for being passable but physically demanding. At a certain point within the squeeze, the caver's chest became lodged. He could inhale but not exhale freely, causing his torso to expand into the surrounding rock. Attempts to reverse out of the squeeze failed. The angle of approach, combined with the rock's irregular shape, created a scene where every movement caused the body to wedge tighter. Efforts by the other team members to pull him back were unsuccessful. At this point, the decision was made to call for external help. One member of the team retraced the route back to the surface and contacted the Upper Wharfdale Fell Rescue Association. a local volunteer organization trained in underground rescue. The call came in at approximately 4:45 p.m. Rescuers mobilized rapidly. By 5:30 p.m., the first team was on site. Due to the cave's layout, initial rescue personnel could not immediately reach the trapped caver. Narrow passages had to be negotiated with full gear, including medical kits, communication lines, and hand tools for potential rock removal. Reaching the casualty took over an hour. The squeeze was too tight for a full rescue crew to work inside. Instead, two slimline rescuers took turns entering the restriction, communicating with the trapped man and assessing options. The immediate priorities were to prevent hypothermia, to maintain breathing space to avoid further constriction of the torso, and to formulate a viable extraction method. A chemical heat pack was passed through as well as a thermal blanket. The caver remained conscious and responsive. No injuries were evident, but the position was severely uncomfortable and carried the risk of positional asphyxia. Rescuers worked with painstaking urgency, chipping away at the narrow limestone passage by hand. Every jagged edge had to be delicately broken off, using chisels and compact battery-powered drills. Each movement calculated to avoid triggering a deadly rockfall or destabilizing the fragile ceiling above. In cave rescues, progress is measured not in meters, but in agonizing centimeters. Communication with the surface was maintained through a specialized cave radio system known as hayphones, capable of transmitting signals through solid rock. Updates pulsed upward to keep anxious family members and emergency services briefed on the slow-moving operation. After grueling hours of inch-by-inch labor, the team finally managed to widen the squeeze just enough for the trapped caver to shift his torso. Carefully, they coated his arms and chest with lubricant, a critical step in tight passage rescues, then initiated a slow, nerve-wracking backward extraction, every tug a gamble between success and collapse. The process took more than 90 minutes from start to finish. By this point, the man had been trapped for over 7 hours. He was pulled free at approximately 11:30 p.m. Once clear, the team conducted a full medical assessment. Vitals were stable. He was placed in a stretcher as a precaution and guided slowly back through the cave network to the surface. The final exit was recorded just before midnight. Paramedics on standby at the surface evaluated him for circulation issues and any signs of compression trauma. He was released without the need for hospitalization. Stump Caverns was not typically viewed as a high-risk site compared to deeper UK systems like Ogof, Fin and Dew, or Easgill. However, even shallow systems can pose serious danger when a caver becomes immobilized in a constricted space. Unlike diving or vertical caving, there is no equipment malfunction here, just a miscalculation of body positioning. After the rescue, the Upper Wharfdale Fell Rescue Association held a detailed debrief and sent a full report to the British Cave Rescue Council. The report stressed how dangerous tight squeezes can be, especially when tackled alone or without team backup. It recommended using a special body gauge tool ahead of time to measure tight spots, and warned that all narrow sections should have a clear exit plan in place before anyone enters. Rescuers also advised carrying as little gear as possible when moving through tight tunnels, to prevent snagging or getting stuck. Even though the operation lasted many hours, experts it ended in a success. The team worked with sharp coordination, the cave's layout allowed steady progress, and the trapped man's condition remained stable, all key factors that helped bring him out alive. Today, Stump Caverns remains open to visitors, but with tighter safety measures. Guided tours are now confined to the well-lit show cave, while deeper exploration, known as wild caving, is reserved for trained professionals with special permission. Danger zones are now clearly marked with warning signs, a quiet but powerful reminder of how narrowly the recent rescue avoided becoming a tragedy. It's a reminder of how dangerous cave exploration can become. While one caver was pulled from the earth just in time, another cave diver descended into an underwater labyrinth and never returned. These stories remind us that beneath the earth, the line between survival and tragedy is razor thin. The underground is beautiful, yes, but it is also merciless. One wrong step, and it could become your tomb. For more real-life survival stories that push the limits of human courage, subscribe and hit the bell icon. And let us know in the comments, after hearing these tales, would you still dare to explore what lies beneath?